Today, the workplace is more dynamic and diverse than it's ever been. 4 generations coming together to contribute to our economy's growth. But new challenges in the workplace are growing each and every day. This podcast brings corporate leaders to you, sharing solutions and strategies to enhance your company's culture and bring your people together. Rise Up For You presents its newest podcast series, Workplace Solutions. People matter.
Welcome to our podcast. I'm Lauren Sweeney. I am your guest host today for our podcast on workplace solutions, where people matter and people come first. Well, today's guest is no exception to the conversation. I am excited to bring him on. Let me tell you a little bit about Darren. Darren Thompson is a business development and marketing leader in the B2B space. He's currently the VP of Marketing and Client Acquisition and specializes in copy, collateral marketing, messaging, and branding. Today's conversation is right in alignment with the work we do at Rise Up For You, and that is to talk about diversity. The company that he works with manages diversity with a tech space, and he's going to tell you all about it. Let's talk about effective DEI engagement, changing environments, productivity, scheduling, and what we can do when low engagement happens. Let's bring him to our stage. Darren Thompson, we're so glad you're here today.
Thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate it, and excited to share some insight, Lauren.
Fantastic. So tell us all about the DEI space, how you're using technology to really support the conversation. Talk to me about all the things.
Sure, absolutely. So again, just want to start by thanking your viewers for giving me the opportunity to share, but also just to let the viewers know that it's very important for us to thank all of the hardworking DEI professionals that are truly the subject matter experts. Just in leading our conversation, just kind of want to point out that I am by no means a DEI subject matter expert. I'm in the tech sector, and we realize that there's some major issues in terms of experience in DEI education. So that's how I got the opportunity to embrace the mission.
Love it.
So ultimately, as we started to learn about DEI education, we came across some barriers that really make it very difficult for companies to really move the needle in terms of the objectives that they're looking to achieve. So when we took a look at those barriers, we found multiple things that really prevent DEI education from being successful. That partnered with a sudden surge in increase for DEI education services sort of led us to have a tech conversation in terms of what tech could actually do in order to help solve what we call that DEI equation when it comes to education and learning.
Absolutely. Incredible need for that DEI conversation, and then bringing in technology, as so many companies have been forced to do with COVID and working remotely and all the things. So talk to me about how you've merged technology and increasing engagement in this DEI space.
Sure. So one of the things that we first looked at was setting. A lot of times DEI education and conversations sort of stumble due to setting. Sometimes people are very uncomfortable discussing sensitive or controversial subjects, so they shut down. They'd rather not engage at all. So by taking a look at settings, which traditionally in the DEI space includes a classroom setting or a Zoom screen setting, we decided to look at the mobile application piece. How could we use mobile technology in order to change that conversation and create a little bit more of a comfortable space? So that was one of the first things that we did. Once we get people a little bit more comfortable with having a conversation, then they're going to be more likely to engage. So that was one of the first things we looked at was setting.
Love it.
I think another important piece to this, kind of when we're talking about some of the barriers that come along with DEI engagement, is the sustainability piece. And Lauren, this is the most heartbreaking piece of all. It's when organizations will hire awesome consultants with the greatest insights ever, and the employees love it, but they're there on a 2-month contract. So learning goes up, that contract ends, all of the great things that the DEI education participants started to learn and grow with suddenly ends. And then what happens to that education? How does the organization actually move forward with change? So that was another issue. So we had to solve that. So with the tech platform, now what we can do is create an immediate opportunity for year-round learning. So there is no 2-month pause when a consultant leaves. That we also believe will help to increase engagement. Once people start to really learn and grow, it will become a natural part of embracing culture.
I love that. We talk with companies a lot about that. We'll do a workshop, we'll have engagement. And like you said, we really recommend that we go in weekly, we're talking with the leaders, we're having incredible open conversations, and really starts with changing the culture where it's wanted that you have these types of conversations, but absolutely that follow-up and that sustainability, it needs to happen. People will joke that, certain habits or things, let's say, I have 2 kids, and people will tell you, you didn't build those kids overnight, so you're not going to lose the baby weight overnight either, right? It's the same idea. Like maybe these unconscious biases, they weren't built in 1 minute. So how do you think spending 1 minute on them is going to effectively work to remove them? It's not. Unconscious bias, we all have some type of bias, and that's okay, but it's how do we create a space to comfortably talk about it and then move them and create an openness within ourselves and socially with those that we're around.
Absolutely. You nailed it. I think really based on what you just said, it's important for me to share some of what came about when we were doing research just in terms of product viability. We found out very basic things we already know, like people want to learn, people want to talk, they just want a space where they're comfortable doing that. And so that's really what we hope will permanently change the way that DEI education is experienced with the Diversity app.
I love that. It's amazing too that you guys came up with creating an app to really utilize technology in this soft skills, in this area that needs so much support and encouragement and time and space.
Absolutely. And this is also a really great time for us to partner with consultants. It's important for us to let consultants know that we support them. And if there's an opportunity for us to learn more about what they do or how we can help them to possibly even scale in their space. Because one of the challenges with the surge and increase for DEI services are a lot of consultants right now are overwhelmed with those requests. So in some instances, it may be difficult for them to sustain the learning that they're introducing to these organizations. And we can help. We're here to support the entire DEI community.
Wow. Really amazing. What do you love best about developing this app, about the company? What do you like best about it?
Wow, that's a really good question. There is a colorful array. Well, the first thing is, you get to meet a colorful array of people for sure. There are really a lot of mission-oriented people out there, and when you really get in front of people and start having conversations about what does workforce organizational change look like, how important it is to develop a workforce. You really meet this really cool array of wide, cool personalities and backgrounds that all have that same mission. And it's just amazing how it all comes together. We've had conversations in Ireland, in England, in Canada, and everyone's got that same, sort of mission to figure out how to make it happen. That's been the most exciting people, just realizing there's a global mission to bring all this stuff together to make sure that we're all a little bit more comfortable with one another.
I love that. So we talked about sustainability. Talk to me about how, let's say I'm a CEO of a company and I realize this effective DEI engagement is very important. Where do you think I start, besides obviously getting your app and hiring Rise Up for You? But where do we even start in the conversation?
Sure. So really in the discussions that we have, a lot of organizations like to find a nice neutral point, which is important. because a workforce really has to kind of find its comfort level with where it wants to start. A lot of organizations will kind of send out surveys to take the temperature of the sort of the employee population, so to speak, kind of find out what's important to them, maybe what they would like to learn about, and they kind of start there. Really, I think the most important part is for companies to kind of do due diligence, really find out what types of organizational changes that they would like to see happen through that DEI lens, and then sort of create a plan around that once they kind of get the opportunity to do some due diligence and really figure out what matters the most to their employee workforce.
Absolutely. And that's also why an outside consultant like us, like using your app, can really support that DEI conversation, because you don't need to be an expert in all things to really make something amazing happen. And that's also why there's such a benefit to bringing an outside HR person or an outside people and development manager, we like to call ourselves, into the conversation, because we want to make sure that employees feel like there's a safe space to have good conversation. And that is environment and culture really matters. And oftentimes it helps if someone from the outside can kind of help set up that environment and then go in and create sustainability for that kind of change.
Absolutely. And as you know, especially with the background in education, these things are not very easy to do, especially with, some of the more controversial conversations that can happen around topics that might be a little more charged than others. So how do you educate people around that? And really introducing that technology piece really helps that to happen. So finally, some of those barriers kind of start to come down, and then we really kind of can start to understand what it is that we need to learn instead of just completely disengaging. So we really feel this will be beneficial, not only for internal workforces and employees, but also for the relationships that they're building externally. We have sales teams, we have customer service interactions, customer success teams, anything that we can do to empower, organizational personal growth as well as personal development is always a plus for an organization.
Absolutely. And the more we develop ourselves, we love to teach DEI inside of the space of emotional intelligence. So as I grow and I am able to have awareness of myself, then I'm able to better have social awareness of my organization and then relationship management outside of myself. But it always starts with me. I have to be willing to acknowledge, okay, what are my biases? What can I do to move them? And then I can go and help others have that same conversation.
Absolutely. And I think the eye-opening thing to learn is we all have biases. It doesn't matter who we are or where we come from or how we're raised, or we all kind of have them. And so being able to openly discuss those to become better people, I think is really the advantage that we have with this technology platform. Because until we can do that, that's the question. How do we become better people? We got to have that communication first. So I'm huge on personal and professional development, and excited that this tech platform we think will permanently change the way that DEI is experienced.
Wow, I love it. I love the conversation too about us taking our personal ownership and then just allowing others to explore. And in a workplace setting, it's very interesting. I think, Darren, we're going to see a lot more DEI conversation kind of spike up as well, especially in the United States and other countries where we have this very hybrid work environment with COVID. So most of us have been very separated. We haven't been seeing our coworkers, which some people, that's been a good thing, and some people not. And there was bias there before that we never maybe dealt with. Then we get separated, didn't really have to deal with it. And now a lot of employees are going back to being together. And it's really important for the CEOs, HR managers to have that type of awareness and open conversations that need to happen if we're going to really effectively scale and grow our companies as we come back together.
I couldn't have said that. I couldn't have said it better. And I think when people really start looking at the back end of statistics of what happens when companies really start to sort of become aware and initiate these education opportunities around DEI initiatives, the impact that actually has on organizations is phenomenal. Sure, people of color and maybe other groups that could be better empowered in a workforce scenario, they get to understand too that the organization is actually looking out and doing its best to help make sure that they're in a comfortable setting. And it's just is a great opportunity for everyone to learn. So that education is for everybody. And I really applaud the organizations that are going the extra mile. You will see some organizations that are a little bit more compliance oriented with their trainings, but then you have those organizations that really want to take that deep educational dive deep into these initiatives in order to get as much impact as they can with an educational program. So it'll be interesting to see how much traction we get with the introduction of technology.
I love it. Well, if they want to find out more about your platform, more about this app, where do they find you?
You're more than welcome to check us out. We're on LinkedIn, but www.diversity. Let me spell that. It's going to be D-I-V as in violin, E-R-S-E-C-I-T-Y. So www.diversity.app. So that's .app. Check us out. When you're online, you're more than welcome to click on Show Us a Demo. It's really difficult to kind of even talk about it, its capability. So we'd like to invite the world to take a demo and really get a firsthand opportunity to experience, again, how the world will permanently be changed with the way that we can now engage with DEI.
I love it. So you're literally building a diverse city and creating this mobile technology platform that supports the DEI conversation that, like us at Rise Up For You and so many other consultants, are engaging in with companies and supporting the conversations and, a growing workforce all around the world.
Absolutely. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share and to just invite organizations to check out a demo, see how we work, see how we might be able to support your organization, but most of all, get that opportunity to see what technology does in this particular instance. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share, Lauren.
Absolutely. Well, Darren, we have a final question. We love to ask everyone on our show, what does Rise Up For You mean to you?
That is a great question. I think that Rise Up for me, I would define that in the sense that every day is an opportunity. So some days are going to be awesome days. Some days are going to be not so awesome. If you're like me, the days that are not so awesome, you feel a little bit more heavier. Having a constant reminder that you have to rise up no matter what, under any circumstance. Nothing can distract you from the mission. It's positive energy for those days, right, when you don't have it in you and you got to get through it, right? So when I hear those two words, it's really more positive affirmation for a person like me. And I appreciate anything that has to do with motivating my spirit.
Absolutely.
So thank you guys for that.
You're so welcome. It's been fantastic having you on. Thank you for the incredible work that you guys are doing with diversity.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Again, really love the show and appreciate the opportunity to be on your platform.
Absolutely. That was amazing. What an incredible idea to come up with a technology app that will actually support the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion conversation. Well, it's been incredible being your guest host today on the Rise Up For You Workplace Solutions podcast. If you are a company wanting extra support, please check out our free resources at riseupforyou.com/company development. You can schedule a strategy call with our CEO, Netta, or myself, or our other team members, as well as download all of our free resources. Have an incredible day, and we will be back next week on our Rise Up For You Workplace Solutions podcast.